All right, man. Torch Talk. Hey, how y'all doing? Hope everybody's good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. I hope everybody's doing well out there. All right, so today's episode, we're gonna go through the many versions of Kendrick Lamar. I found this video very fascinating. I seen a piece of it, and I wanted to come on here to show y'all and talk about the different versions of Kendrick and what we got so far throughout all the years that Kendrick Lamar has been actively performing as an artist. So before we get into that, legendary spill, this is Torture Talk. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. This is the OG show. All my beautiful, single, sexy ladies, put one in the chat. All the fellas, y'all know where to find the ones at. Just don't harass them. I don't sell no merch, but I do have content. Absolutely free. But if you want to leave a donation, link is right on the screen. Cash App. No more PayPal. They call me the Hidden Gem. 1,300 subscribers to over 19,000. And yes, I am the King of the North. Let me know what kingdom you are from. Also, go subscribe to Torture Talk After Hours, where I drop episodes over there every day. There will be a couple episodes coming out over there as well today. So, thank you for joining me. Appreciate y'all. Let me know what kingdom you from and all that good stuff. So, let's go, man. Let's get to it. Kendrick Lamar, many faces, many versions of him. All right, man. So, let's get it.
Drake beef. Kendrick didn't pull out some wild new persona here. He showed up as himself, but sharper, louder, and with zero patience left. Starting with that verse on Like That. Back in March, the gloves came off. No aliases, no characters, just a colder, more calculated version of Kendrick, who wasn't interested in playful jabs or coded lyrics. That verse felt like he'd been waiting, sharpening the blade for years. It was clear he was done pretending the tension didn't exist. Then Euphoria dropped. And man...
So let me stop it there. What he's saying here is absolutely correct. This is exactly what Kendrick Lamar was doing. He had no gimmicks, no nothing, just pure him. You know what I'm saying? It was pure Kendrick. It wasn't Kung Fu Kenny. It was pure Kendrick. And I think this is from Mr. Morale, where he said he went to therapy and his therapist showed him, like certain things that he had to peel back the layers on himself, and that's what he did, in my opinion. He basically came out as himself, and he destroyed Drake. So keep going.
That wasn't a track. It was a long, unfiltered rant, dressed up in haunting samples and slick production. He dragged Drake from every angle. Exist. Then Euphoria dropped. And man, that wasn't a track. It was a long, unfiltered rant, dressed up in haunting samples and slick production. He dragged Drake from every angle. His identity, his credibility, his online presence. Kendrick's tone here wasn't even angry. It was confident. Like he already knew how this would end. It was personal, it was layered, and it didn't care about being polite or cryptic. The way he used his voice, flipping between calm and chaotic, felt like he was turning the screws on purpose. Next came 616 in Los Angeles, another.
That's a great way of putting it. It to me, I felt kind of the same. I felt like he was turning the dial up slowly. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what Kai Cenat said. I remember he said he's heating up slowly. I think that what Kendrick did is he brought everybody into this. You know what I'm saying? He brought everybody into it slowly. And he wanted to peel back the layers slowly to show y'all who Drake really was. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when he went crazy. Because I think that for me, every time I watch a movie, I don't care how slow the movie is in the beginning. Because to me, a slow burn is always better than something just coming out the gate. I mean, it depends on what it is, but usually a slow burn into something that's actually magnificent, that to me is great. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what Kendrick did. Kendrick was like a slow burning movie that ended perfectly. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep it going.
But it wasn't even on streaming platforms at first. It popped up on Instagram like it had been slipped under the door. This time, Kendrick came after the entire OVO circle, calling them snakes and spies. He took shots at online personalities and used that eerie beat to make everything feel a little too real. It was surgical.
And y'all notice too, Kendrick put this out on Instagram. And Drake put the next song after this, Drake put out on Instagram. He put Buried Alive 2 on Instagram. That was the first track that came out before Family Matters. So Drake responded to him on Instagram, just like Kendrick Lamar put 616 in LA on Instagram. It's crazy.
Not just yelling to make noise, but calculated enough to make Drake's next move feel forced. But that was nothing compared to Meet the Grams. Kendrick went off script, addressing Drake's entire family like he was writing a series of open letters. It wasn't just beef, it felt like a trial. He accused, exposed, and dissected, bar by bar. He didn't hide behind metaphors or characters here either. It was raw storytelling, plain and brutal. And less than one day later, Not Like Us came flying in, with mustard behind the beat, the chorus, and
Yeah, man. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, man. The way he set that up from Euphoria to 616 to Meet the Gram to Not Like Us, that's a perfect EP right there. If that was an EP, yeah, that probably would have went Diamond, bro. That was a perfect EP. If he put that out as an EP, just like those 4 songs right there, yeah, man, it's gonna. If he did that today, it'll still sell. Today, people will go buy it. This is a piece of history that a lot of people would want to have. I wish he would have did that. I wish he would have put those tracks as an EP. I think he should throw like that in there too. You know what I'm saying? He put that as an EP. Yeah, man, that would be crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
infectious. The content, absolutely telling, plain and brutal. And less than one day later, Not Like Us came flying in, with mustard behind the beat. The chorus, infectious. The content, absolutely ruthless. Kendrick wasn't trying to play fair. He blasted Drake's reputation, his influence, his connections, everything, and somehow made it catchy enough to dominate charts and sweep up trophies. Then came the twist, GNX. After all that heat, Kendrick dropped an album that wasn't a diss project at all. This wasn't about Drake anymore. It was about Kendrick, his roots, and what happens after war. It's a narrative-driven record, but that fire never really left. On Reincarnated, he painted himself as Lucifer, debating God. It's metaphorical, but it still landed like a gut punch. It felt like Kendrick was asking himself if he'd sell out like the greats before him or hold on to his integrity. That question ran through the whole album like a current. Critics called GNX a monument to ego. And honestly, they weren't wrong. But it wasn't ego for ego's sake. It was Kendrick laying out his ambition and pride like a blueprint. He wasn't just flexing, he was setting the record straight on who he is.
Definitely understand that. That's a great point. That's a great point. I definitely think that what Kendrick was doing on GNX was levels ahead of his contemporaries, or even his competition for that matter. GNX to me it's such a great album. It's such a classic that a lot of artists could never reach that level of, because you got to understand something, right? Excuse me. And I know this guy's probably going to go through this, but you got to understand something. Where Kendrick Lamar came from to GNX, every one of his albums have so much weight hold to them that you can't really say that you can't really say anything bad about his albums. You can say you don't like it, but for you to say, I just don't see anybody with any type of brain in their head say that Kendrick Lamar albums are corny. If you think Kendrick Lamar albums are corny, then I know that you don't listen to great hip hop, or you don't. I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna say I know that your selection of music just wouldn't be my taste of music, because there's no way in the world you could say Kendrick is corny, but then say J. Cole is fire. It's either you don't like Kendrick and you haven't really listened to his music, or you just, you know what I'm saying, just don't really know about music, in my opinion. But like I said, when people say it was a a monument to ego, I don't really agree with that. I don't think that that's what GNX really was for. I think it was more for like what happens after the beef, what happens after the battle. And that album really haunts Drake, because that album is still being sold and rotated in hip hop spaces. In Drake album that he just released with Party Next Door really ain't going nowhere. So you know what it is.
He stands and who gets left behind. Then whacked out murals slid in, with Kendrick tossing straight shots at other big names without losing his poetic touch. It was aggressive but refined, Loud, but intentional. The line about Lil Wayne didn't just sting, it lingered. And calling out J. Cole straight up, no filter, no apology. By the time Heart Part 6 rolled around, the energy changed. It was reflective, almost peaceful, like Kendrick had made his point and was now looking back. He shouted out his early days, his team, his roots. It wasn't soft, it was grounded. He reclaimed a part of his identity Drake tried to grab, and he did it with grace and power. But Squabble Up brought it full circle. It was upbeat, rooted in West Coast style, but still wild enough to remind you Kendrick can bend genres without losing bite. It felt more like a celebration than a fight, like he'd closed the chapter on the beef and was dancing on the ashes. That's the kind of transformation that stood out most in this era. Kendrick didn't become someone else, he just turned the volume up on who he already was. From the sharp, icy tone of Like That to the cultural pride of Squabble Up, this phase wasn't about characters, it was about clarity. Kendrick showed how layered one artist can be without hiding behind masks. The defense, the metaphors, the musical choices, they all pointed back to a single truth. Sometimes being yourself is the most powerful move you can make, Mr. Morale.
That's a fact. He ain't never lie about that. This is why I'm always gonna be who I am, man. You cannot get on this YouTube space and really be out here acting like you're somebody else. Like, for real. Like, because it's always gonna catch up with you. No matter what you do, it's always gonna catch up with you. You always gotta be authentic, or the closest to the most authentic you can be. Because I know sometimes it's difficult to be authentic, especially when you are working in a setting where you kind of got to cater a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I always use Simon Cowell as an example of being who you are, no matter how much you think it hurts people's feelings. You could also be who you are, but then decide not to talk about certain things. Because sometimes you got to know who you in front of. And you don't want to come in here like Lil Wayne and do a rock concert in front of hip hop fans, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So you have to always, always, always know who you are as a person. And people will accept you for who you are. You might not get accepted by everybody, but you ain't gonna always get accepted by everybody. But trust me, you will be accepted if you accept yourself. Just accept who you are. If you a bitch ass nigga, then that's something different. Sorry, I can't help you.
Kendrick didn't wrap this persona in a flashy costume or catchy nickname. This version of him came stripped down, layered in therapy sessions and emotional bruises. He used Mr. Morale to face himself in real time, not to entertain, but to process. The guy on this album isn't Kung Fu Kenny, isn't K. Dot, and definitely isn't trying to be anyone's hero. He's in therapy, peeling back ego, guilt, and generational mess, like old wallpaper. The album's structure says it all. Two halves, Big Steppers and Mr. Morale, split like a mirror cracked down the middle. On one side, it's outward pressure, public image, performance, the curated self. On the other, it's internal friction, the voices in his head, childhood wounds, spiritual confusion. It starts with Whitney Alford offering calm but firm grounding, and by the time Eckhart Tolle steps in, Kendrick's already knee-deep in self-doubt and soul-searching. He doesn't dodge hard topic. Fatherhood isn't a prop here, it's a pressure point. Infidelity isn't glamorized, it's confessed. Mother I Sober might be the rawest Kendrick track ever, and that's saying something. It's just piano, voice, and pain. You hear his daughter, hear Beth Gibbons ghosting through the chorus, and it all swells into something that doesn't even feel like a song anymore. It's more like a breaking point. Then there's Anti-Diaries. Kendrick walks through his childhood ignorant, like he's reading pages from a diary he's not proud of. It's uncomfortable, and that's the point. He stumbles over misgendering, pushes boundaries, and lands on something real. How love and religion and ignorance can crash into each other when no one's willing to listen.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Although I disagree with a lot of things that certain communities do, because I think if people are doing something that's for themselves, you can do that. It's not a problem with that. But I don't agree with pushing ideologies on children. I just don't. I'm sorry. I mean, hey, it is what it is. And I will never agree with that. I will never agree with pushing an ideology on a child. Just won't. Just because you feel as though something is something. No, children are children. They're pure. They don't really know what's going on. If you're telling me that you believe a child can believe something and they don't even know what the world is like yet, then you are crazy. I don't care how a child feels. You know what I'm saying? A child can feel like anything, and the next day they can feel like something else. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the ideology being pushed on children, and I never will. Let's get that clear. You know what I'm saying? But on that song, I understand what his auntie was going through, because I have a lot of people in my family like that too as well. You know what I'm saying? And people look at them like that. Not to say that whether people fed into one of my cousin's delusions or not, that's up for debate. But they respected them and they went along with it because they know that made them happy. You know what I'm saying? Not everything should be done to make somebody happy, but this is what happens. And I have at least 3 or 4, matter of fact, more than that in my family. So when he said this thing, that really hit me hard, because a couple of my aunties wanted to be a man. That's just what it was. Some of my cousins wanted to be a man too. And when he said man now, he didn't say wanted to be a man. He said my auntie's a man now. You know what I'm saying? So he was looking at it from the point of view like he didn't understand what it was. You know what I'm saying? Because he's looking at it from the gender ideology of a man and a woman. He didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to get all deep into that. I'm just going to say he didn't understand as a child. And that's exactly why I said children are innocent and they don't really know what's going on. So keep it going.
Cry Together plays out like a short film recorded live. It's ugly, loud, and tense. It's also painfully human. He's not romanticizing dysfunction here. He's dissecting it. There's no resolution, just 2 people yelling past each other, dragging all their trauma into one room with no escape hatch. That's what makes Mr. Morale so different. He's not rapping from the top of the mountain. He's in the valley, dragging himself through the mud. The persona is flawed on purpose. He's still poetic, still calculated, but there's mess in every verse. Not stylistic mess, emotional mess. It's intentional. He doesn't want to be perfect. He wants to be honest. He says it flat out. I'm not your savior. That line hits like a brick. Fans who came looking for a prophet got handed a therapy transcript. He made the decision to pull back from idol status, showing how damaging it can be to put artists on pedestals they didn't ask for. Mr. Morale doesn't want applause.
That's very, very important for y'all to understand. This to me is why Kendrick Lamar is, how would I say? This is the reason why, to me, he's the greatest rapper of all time, because of this album right here. This album right here cemented him as the greatest rapper of all time, in my opinion. There's no other artist that I can think of that has been this upfront and honest. I'm talking about the greats. You know what I'm saying? Eminem maybe, but not like this. Eminem was more on the lines of not more therapy, more revenge than anything. But this album here, to me, is what cemented him as the greatest rapper of all time. Honestly, if he would have ended his career after Mr. Morale, if he would have said, you know what, I'm not doing no more albums, he still would have been the greatest rapper of all time. He still would have had a bulletproof catalog. I think him adding GNX on is just another, to me, that's another chapter in his career that's going to elevate him to another level. You know what I'm saying? So, but definitely this album, when he said, I'm not your savior, man, listen, man, let me explain something to y'all. For an artist to say, I'm not your savior, that right there, it's so raw to me, because artists don't do stuff like that. They're afraid to lose everything. You know what I'm saying? If they say that. Because a lot of y'all fans, y'all believe that these artists are your saviors. Y'all are raised off this music. This is what it is. I would admit some of it I was too. But, you know, I had to reevaluate. But still, that's what it is.
He wants to be understood, or at least heard. The reception matched the complexity. Some listeners were blown away by the emotional gravity. Others got stuck on the contradictions, like Kendrick, featuring Kodak Black, while talking about accountability and abuse. That tension wasn't an oversight. It was baked in. Mr. Morale isn't here to deliver clean answers. He's here to hold up a mirror and let it shake. The album topped charts, scooped up the Grammy for Best Rap Album, and kicked off conversations that had way more depth than a typical release. Kendrick knew what he was doing. He didn't make this to go viral. He made it because it had to come out. The pain, the doubt, the frustration, it was clogging the pipes. And this album was how he cleared it. And the split structure, that wasn't just a creative gimmick. The whole thing was mapped like a therapy session stretched across track. The first half is full of posturing and contradiction. The second half peels away those layers. Mr. Morale isn't one consistent voice. He's shifting, evolving, arguing with himself. The persona isn't complete without the contrast. This version of Kendrick doesn't offer closure. He offers context. He's a father, a partner, a survivor, a skeptic, a critic, and most of all, a man who refuses to pretend he's healed when he's still hurting. He's not fixing everything in one album. He's naming the pain, and that's the step he's on. Mr. Morale represents a giant pivot in Kendrick's artistic journey. It's not clean, it's not smooth, and it's definitely not pretty, but it's important. This persona throws away the cape and puts on the weight. No savior, no superhero, just a man with a mic and a lot to unload. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. No savior, no superhero. He definitely came across as no savior, no superhero. And I think, honestly, a lot of y'all want these artists to be a different type of entity in front of you when they are telling you, like, no, I'm just like you. When Kendrick said at the Clips concert that I'm gonna go in the crowd and watch as a fan, that lets you know right there that he's he's really not trying to be someone's savior. I think that you can use some of his words as saying, well, Kendrick Lamar saved my life, and it's not intentional. It's not intentional for him to do that. I think that once artists start acting as if they're trying to dictate or put therapy in your head as far as them controlling how you think, I think that's a problem. I think that is a manipulative tactic that artists do use. And I'm not gonna say his name, but we all know who I'm talking about. That definitely is a manipulative tactic. But let's keep it going.
Oklama. This persona wasn't built to entertain or shock. It was meant to mark a shift. Kendrick first signed off as Oklama in August of 2021 when he announced his final album under Top Dog Entertainment. That alone set a tone. It was more than just a goodbye. It was a pivot into something new. He kept the message minimal, reflective, and quietly loaded with meaning. No press tour, no bombastic branding, just a lowercase alias and a declaration that there's beauty in completion. On the surface, Oklama showed up as the executive producer credit for Mr. Morale and The Big Step, but calling it just a production tag misses the point. Oklama was the architect, the lens, the signature under the blueprint. This wasn't Kendrick putting on a character, it was him stepping into the role of translator, taking his internal process and turning it into a communal offering. He didn't just rap.
Yeah, I never knew this. This is something new to me. Oklama. Oklama. I seen this before, but I never knew this. Hey man, you learn something new every day, man. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, and this went over. This must have flew under the radar. Like, I'm gonna look this up. Now, obviously, I don't think this is any music, but I didn't know this. Damn, that's crazy. I know everything, and I guess I just didn't know this. This is wild. Yo, that's crazy. I have to admit, I did not know this. Wow.
As Oklama, he created through it. Some fans have tried decoding the name. OK for OK. LA for Los Angeles. MA for mother. The idea being that those three elements, wellness, hometown, and maternal influence, ground Kendrick's identity. Others think there's a sly nod to Barack Obama in there, maybe as a reflection of Kendrick's interest in leadership, symbolism, and black excellence. But Kendrick never confirmed anything, and that silence fits the persona. Oklama doesn't overshare. He lets the art carry the message. And in Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that message was layered. This persona wasn't just crafting the album, it was organizing the chaos. Kendrick moved from outward performance to inward reflection, and Oklama was the one holding the frame steady. You can feel it in the sequencing, in the production choices, in the shift from Whitney Alford's voice to Eckhart Tolle's. It's Kendrick using Oklama to guide us, almost like a narrator standing just off stage. Then there's the deeper meaning. Some thinkers have compared Oklama to figures like Sun Ra, not in sound, but in spirit. Like Ra, Kendrick uses this persona to blend worlds, high and low, formal and informal, intellectual and emotional. Oklama isn't flashy, he's meditative, a cultural interpreter, someone who recognizes that artistry and community aren't separate, and that self-expression can be collective. That idea shows up clearly in The Heart Part 5, when the song opens with I am, all of us. It's not just a slogan, it's the manifesto. Visually, Kendrick started rolling out the name in performances and credits. In the Family Ties video with Baby Keem, the name Oklama appears as part of his creative identity, showing that this persona isn't confined to one album. It's part of the larger
That's why I seen that at. That's why I seen that at. I was just thinking, like, I know I seen that name somewhere. That's why I seen that at. Oklama. It's kind of like Akuma. You know what I'm saying? It does like Akuma, right? Street Fighter. Oklama. Akuma. But that's an L in there. Let's go.
direction Kendrick's headed. He's not trying to repeat past formulas. He's stepping into something broader, more philosophical. This persona works because it's understated. There's no superhero outfit, no grand mythology. It's just a quiet signal that the man behind the mic is evolving again. Oklama doesn't ask for praise, he asks for reflection. And that makes it all hit harder. The I am, all of it phrase becomes even more layered. In this context, it ties into Kendrick's recurring theme of shared experience, that his story is not just his own, but connected to a larger narrative. It's the opposite of celebrity individualism. It's about dissolving ego to better represent community pain, joy, confusion, and healing. Oklama says it plainly, then lets the music expand it. And while it may seem like Oklama's just a quiet footnote in Kendrick's timeline, the weight it carries is massive. This persona helped launch his most vulnerable, experimental work yet. He took on executive control, stepped back from savior expectations, and challenged the idea that rap personas have to be loud to be effective. Oklama's power is in his restraint. So in a catalog full of bold characters, Good Kid, King Kunta, Kung Fu Kenny, Oklama stands apart by doing less. He's not a costume. He's a signature, a shift in posture, the person Kendrick becomes when it's time to turn inward and speak outward at the same time. He's not just producing tracks, he's shaping legacy. Oklama doesn't end with one album. It's the beginning of Kendrick operating as a bridge between old and new, personal and collective, pain and progress. That quiet note in 2021 wasn't a soft exit. It was the sound of someone stepping into a different kind of spotlight. Kung Fu Kenny. This version of Kendrick didn't sneak into the spotlight. He dropped in midair, fists up, backed by thumping bass and cinematic.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look more into Oklama to see what that means. I'm sure that there's a lot of theories floating around. That's the fascinating part about Kendrick is he really don't explain anything, and I think a lot of people like that. A lot of people like the fact that Kendrick Lamar don't really say anything. He leaves it up for interpretation, and that's how it should be when you're an artist. You shouldn't have to explain your work all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people need to stop asking. Just give you a different version of your different interpretation of what it is. And just accept that, because it's always sometimes it's always good to give your interpretation instead of waiting for somebody to explain. And you might be right, you might be wrong. But if there's clarity that need to be given, I'm sure that the artist would give it. But if they're not giving no clarity, obviously it can be taken in millions and millions of different ways. Maybe that's what they're thinking. So nobody's wrong.
The name first appeared in the DNA video, stamped in bold Chinese characters right under Kendrick's face like a title card. He wasn't hiding it, he was declaring it. Kung Fu Kenny had arrived, not with mystery, but with mastery. That same video featured Don Cheadle, who played a character named Kenny in Rush Hour 2. And Kendrick made sure the nod was intentional. He wasn't just borrowing the name, he was tying his identity to a legacy of sharp wit and action movie swagger. Then there was The Damn Legend of Kung Fu Kenny, a stylized short film rolled out on the Damn Tour. It was pure martial arts theater. Kendrick, in full black and white robes, set off on a mission to find the glow, a direct lift from The Last Dragon, where the glow meant reaching a kind of mystical self-mastery. In Kendrick's hands, that metaphor turned personal. The persona wasn't just a costume for tour dates. It was a marker of artistic evolution. Kung Fu Kenny represented the Kendrick who passed through the storm and come out razor sharp. And at Coachella,
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna look up as well. I never seen that short film. Damn, this is crazy, yo. This is why I love the internet, man. Cause you start to see and hear things that you never seen. I never seen the short film. I seen one short film about the PayPal thing, but I never seen the short film of Kung Fu Kenny. Never. I need to look that up. And maybe I'll do a reaction to it. I don't know. Let's keep it going.
He doubled down. The visuals, the robes, the mood, it all pointed back to discipline and control. But unlike earlier alter egos that leaned into chaos or reflection, Kung Fu Kenny was confident, centered, and a bit theatrical. His clothes weren't flashy. They were deliberate. He wore them like a martial arts uniform, not a costume, letting the music do the loud talking while his appearance stayed calm and focused. There's a long history of martial arts imagery in hip-hop. The Wu-Tang Clan practically built an empire around it. Kendrick didn't ignore that. He leaned into it with respect. Kung Fu Kenny tapped into the tradition of rappers using martial arts as a metaphor for lyrical skill, discipline, and survival. But he wasn't
And you notice too, Drake got a song called Wu-Tang Clan, right? Now, I'm not sure if that song came out before. I don't really remember what album that was on. Wu-Tang Forever, I think that's the name of the album. Name of the song. I'm not sure. I believe that was on the Scorpion. I believe it was. Let me see. Yeah, that was Nothing Was the Same. Oh man, that was back in 2013. So, if this was basically I don't know, this probably wasn't a shot at Drake, but if Drake did a song called Wu-Tang Forever, and then years later, I don't think Kendrick Lamar would tie that to Drake. Well, maybe, you never know, maybe he was showing Drake that, it's not just that, but who knows? But that's pretty interesting that he had a song called Wu-Tang Forever, and then you got Kung Fu Kenny. That's pretty interesting. Let's keep it going.
He was adapting it to his own arc, moving from student to master without ever saying it outright. Online, fans started picking it apart. Some called Kung Fu Kenny Kendrick's bad side, a version that came with more bite. Others said it was just him, at his most polished, most powerful. One thing they agreed on, he wasn't experimenting anymore. He was applying everything he'd learned. Kung Fu Kenny wasn't wild or unhinged. He was precise, surgical. You could hear it in his flows, see it in his posture, and feel it in the staging. This persona wasn't about flash, it was about form. Kung Fu Kenny brought a level of performance discipline that matched the intensity of the damn era. The songs hit hard, but they also moved with rhythm and control, like well-trained strikes. Even his interviews felt more calculated during that time. No chaos, no loose threads, just focus. It's no surprise the New Yorker highlighted how Kung Fu Kenny added a visual dimension to Kendrick's storytelling. He already had the words, this persona gave him the presence. At live shows, he didn't just rap, he presented. Every move felt choreographed, like part of a larger story. The alter ego gave him space to elevate his stagecraft without losing the personal grit that makes his music hit so hard. And while Kung Fu Kenny was loud in name, the execution was minimal and elegant. It wasn't a parody, it was an upgrade. Think of it as Kendrick leveling up, like a final form, not forever, but for that chapter. He took everything from the K-Dot era, filtered it through the pain and pressure of To Pimp a Butterfly, then emerged with a new stance. Not defensive, not aggressive, but poised. So Kung Fu Kenny wasn't just a character, he was a signal, a way for Kendrick to say, I've trained, I've struggled, and now I strike with purpose. There's a discipline to the persona that mirrors the music from that time. Each bar controlled, each performance deliberate, each image crafted with precision. You could see it in the short film, in the way Kendrick moved on stage, in how he let the persona speak without over-explaining it. And the name stuck, even now. Years later, fans still reference Kung Fu Kenny whenever Kendrick drops something calculated or performs with that quiet intensity. He didn't need to yell it out every time. He introduced it once and let the music and visuals carry it forward. Kung Fu Kenny doesn't need constant reappearance to matter. The persona made its mark, not by dominating every moment, but by showing what happens when an artist doesn't just experiment, but fully embodies mastery. Kendrick didn't just wear the robes, he earned them. King Kunta. This isn't Kendrick slipping into some cartoonish.
All right, so look, I'm gonna break this into two parts because this video is pretty long, and I don't want this joint to be over an hour and something long. So this is part one. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna come back to part two, and then y'all can watch these, in y'all time. Yeah, so I'm gonna make two parts out of this video because I I think it's very interesting. I have a lot to say. I don't want it to be over an hour and 20 minutes long. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem doing videos that long, but for this one, I kind of want to make it into two parts. So this will be part one of this. Now, as far as what he said with all of those different versions of the first three versions from the Kung Fu Kenny down to Oklama and all that, like it's to me it's very telling how good Kendrick Lamar is when it comes to certain aspects of his career. I think that I'll be honest with y'all, and I know a lot of people going to probably say I'm crazy for saying this. I don't think Kendrick Lamar gets enough credit, and I don't mean by get enough credit like as in him being who he is. I think he don't get enough credit for his creativity. I think that Kendrick Lamar always has different versions of himself that he keeps coming with, and in part two we gonna break down that as far as like To Pimp a Butterfly and King Kunta and all that. Yeah, that's gonna be great. I already know what time it is. So thank y'all for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all on part two. Yeah, so part two probably gonna come out probably tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna put it out the same day. I'll put it out tomorrow. And this gonna come out today. You know what I mean? At 12. And then tomorrow, part two is gonna come out, at 12. So thank y'all for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one, man. I got a lot of episodes coming up. Make sure y'all be on the lookout for them. This Young Thug thing ain't gonna go away, so I got another episode about that. And yeah, man. Thank y'all for joining me. I appreciate y'all.